Thank you. So, for anybody who is newish, my name is Joyce. I'm the assistant minister here, and hello. And it's my great honor to be here when Dr. Edward is taking a bit of time off. And I have to point out, it just occurred to me as we were greeting each other, that, this community rocks, This is the third time we have been able to allow our very beloved central figure here, Dr. Edward Fillion, go, so that he can rest, rejuvenate, recreate himself, and come back to us refreshed and rejuvenated. If we didn't do this for him, he wouldn't be here. He would have fizzled out 7 years ago or something. I know it. Yes, I know it. So good for us. So creativity is, in fact, the theme of the month, as William Abel said. And today's topic specifically is creative confidence. Now, when I hear that word, creative confidence, it just immediately brings to mind the story of the young girl who's in class and she's drawing a picture, and her teacher comes up and says, "What are you drawing a picture of?" And the little girl says, "I'm drawing a picture of God." And the teacher says, "Well, you can't do that. No one knows what God looks like." And the girl says, "They will in a minute." And that, to me, is the voice of creative confidence. Just because nobody has done it before, the voice of creative confidence says, "I could do it." Just because someone tells me I can't, the voice of creative confidence says, "I could do it." And, continues the voice of creative confidence, when I do it, it will be something new and wonderful for everybody. They'll know what God looks like in a minute. Creative confidence is actually what is demanded of us in our world today. The things facing us these days may seem unsolvable. How can we ensure that everybody has enough to eat? How do we curb our trend toward environmental destruction? How can we provide shelter for everyone? These kinds of questions may challenge our faith that there could be a solution. But from a spiritual point of view, there must be a solution. Since the divine creative force made everything out of itself, then it has to be present. Every bit of it has to be present throughout creation. All of creation is it. And all of creation contains its qualities. Within it, nothing is lacking. It is one complete whole. So imagine a jigsaw puzzle. It's all there, and here's this piece, and yes, it's got to have another piece to go with it. Therefore, in this one complete whole, if something is lost, it can be found. If something is, if there's a problem, there's got to be a solution. If there's a question, there's got to be an answer. And the magnitude of the problems facing us today calls forth from each of us whatever we can do to build and exercise our creative confidence in finding solutions. The book of the month is a great tool for doing that. As William mentioned, Creative Confidence, Unleashing the Creative Potential Within Us All. It's written by two brothers, Tom and David Kelly, who have lots of experience in guiding teams of people in thousands of companies into creative breakthroughs, innovations, and solutions. For example, Apple's first mouse. Yeah, so these guys are not slouches. So the book begins like this. When you hear the word creativity, what do you think of next? If you're like many people, your mind immediately leaps to artistic endeavors like sculpture, drawing, music, or dance. You may equate creative with artistic. Now, I don't do that anymore, but I spent a lot of time during my life actually thinking those two were creative and artistic. In fact, in the late 60s, my mom and I, my soft-spoken, sweet mom and I, were at a women's study group at a church. And the question of the day was, what gifts do you bring? And we went around the circle. When we got to my mom, she said, I don't think I have any gifts. And I said, oh, Mom, that's not true. But I couldn't think of things fast enough to articulate in that moment. Because you see, my mother and I and everybody in that circle of women in the late 60s was of that reference frame that creative gifts had to be artistically obvious. Now, here's the thing. What we failed to think about was all the creative gifts my mother had brought to logistically organizing a household of 4 children, planning and serving 3 meals a day, day after day, for years. Managing a budget on one salary that allowed for 6 people to feel like there was always enough. It's true that artistic endeavors in the visual arts, the written arts, the performing arts are examples of creative expression, but there are so many more ways that creativity shows up and gets expressed through us. Ernest Holmes said, "Something within me today sings aloud as I marvel at the limitless opportunities for my self-expression." Doesn't that just remind you of what the choir just sang us? Something within me today sings aloud as I marvel at the limitless opportunities for my self-expression. So let's pause for just a moment as each of us consider this question. Is there something I'm doing in my life now that is requiring my creativity? Perhaps I didn't even notice that it was something creative. Perhaps it's a tricky home repair project, or new ways to organize a drawer, or some innovative way to navigate some delicate interpersonal dynamics. Is there something I am doing in my life now that is requiring my creativity? The authors again. Or, when you hear the word creativity, you may feel that being creative is a fixed trait, like having brown eyes. Either you're born with creative genes or you're not. I don't know. Have you ever been guilty of that? I think I have. You know, I look at somebody like Claire Victor, and she's fabulous, isn't she? Yes, yes. And then I'm at home singing my little heart out, and if I'm not careful, I can think, oh, I'm no Claire Victor, why bother? But I have to tell you, Claire does not sound like me. especially today. Oh, gosh. Okay. Of course, this idea that some people have a creative gene and some others don't is just false. The authors say, we have come to see this set of misconceptions as the creativity myth. It is a myth that far too many people share. This book is about the opposite of that myth. It is about what we call creative confidence, and at its foundation is the belief that we are all creative. We are all creative. Well, that has to be true in at least two ways. First of all, to be human is to be creative. Think tool use, development of language. In fact, there's so many things that come out of your mouth that have never been said by anybody before. They are brand new thoughts put into words. Plus, it takes creativity to understand language. It takes creativity for you to sit there and make sense of what I'm saying in a way that's meaningful for you. So sitting here, you might think you're doing nothing, but you are actually being very creative as you take this in your own way. Writer Francis Moore Lapp and Jeffrey Perkins tell us this: our species never would have made it this far if we were not by nature curious problem solvers and creators, beings who love to act, to take risks, to live exuberantly, to aspire to what lies beyond easy reach. In other words, physically, genetically, mentally, we are hardwired to create. Secondly, the truth that you and I are creative is a spiritual truth. It's the nature of God or spirit to create. And since we are expressions of spirit, since we are one with spirit, we therefore share that nature. It is our nature to create. In fact, the divine creative process continues through us. Before the service, one of our 90-year-old congregants came up to me and said, what it's been delightful to discover is that this creativity continues to come. Age has not diminished it. And isn't that a good thing? Because I know as I kind of slow down a little bit physically, I've got to be very creative in how I organize things so that they're as easy for me as possible. Efficiency, a good expression of divine creativity. Holmes reminds us there is a universal artist seeking to devote its whole time to what we are undertaking as though there were nothing else for it to do. And this, as I said, is an ongoing, continuous, never-ending process of spirit creatively expressing in, through, and as us. So, to put a piece of spiritual truth into one sentence, you are the unlimited creation of an unlimited source that is forever giving to you unlimited ideas, possibility, and potentialities. So would you kindly turn to somebody on either side and tell them you are creative? And would you just take a moment and tell them, I am creative. And then any combination of you or I or we are creative. So let's take this affirmation and change it to I and read it together. I am the unlimited creation of an unlimited source that is forever giving to me unlimited ideas, possibility, and potentialities. Okay, now that we have our new script, let's do it again. I am the unlimited creation of an unlimited source that is forever giving to me unlimited ideas, possibility, and potentialities. So given that this is the truth of our nature, by nature and by definition we are creative, why does it sometimes seem that we're not as creative as other people, or there are things that are too big for our creativity? Let me share with you the rest of that Holmes quote. There is a universal artist seeking to devote its whole time to what we are undertaking as though there were nothing else for it to do. But as Emerson said, we have to get our bloated nothingness out of the way. You know, everybody who takes the class with Emerson comes out loving that phrase, my bloated nothingness. What is this bloated nothingness when it comes to creativity? Well, to find out, I turned within to my own bloated nothingness, and I came up with a few things that can block me, and perhaps they're familiar to you. First, I noticed some sort of subtle underlying expectation that I have to do everything well, even if it's the very first time I try something, I need to do it well. Well, how unrealistic is that? Well, at least I don't want to make mistakes, especially if anybody's looking. Jazz musician Miles Davis said, "Don't worry about mistakes, there aren't any." And if you can't quite believe that, then Zig Ziglar said, "Make failure your teacher, not your undertaker." Good, huh? In other words, let's learn from our mistakes, not let them bring us to a dead halt. Here's a second thing I found can stop my creativity, and that is comparing myself to others. You know, as I said before, we can see somebody doing something really well, and I can think, well, why bother? It's already being done much better than I can do it. Or someone makes a critical comment that shuts us down. I made that mistake when I was a young'un of 18. I went to college and I played a piece of piano music I'd written for a friend of mine who said, "Oh, it's not very good, is it?" At which point, I actually didn't write any music for several years. Yeah, huh? And thank goodness we have a chance to get older and older and older, because one day I had a tune in my head that wanted to be worked with, and I thought to myself, you know what? I am not going to let one comment from one person 6 years ago stop me from doing something with this tune in my head. I think this allowing of our own creativity to be blocked by criticism or subject to comparison is based in the ultimate bloated nothingness thought, which is that I'm actually not so good. I really don't have anything to offer. What I have to offer isn't that good. It actually doesn't matter if I do or not. I'm not that good. Well, dancer, choreographer Martha Graham would argue with you. She's done a lot of wonderful writings, and one of them recently has become pretty popular, and I share an abbreviated version of it. She said, "There is a life force that is translated through you into action. Now, if that's not a spiritual statement, I don't know what is. There is a life force that is translated through you into action. And because there is only one of you in all time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist. The world will not have it. It's not your business to determine how good it is, nor how valuable, nor how it compares with other expressions. Boy, isn't that the truth? You know, we don't actually know when we give a gift of creative thinking. We don't know the blessing it can have. Have you had that experience where someone will come up to you and say, oh, I really appreciate it. 3 months ago I wasn't feeling so well, and you said that one thing, and it really helped a lot. And you're not remembering what you said? We don't know the blessing effect of what we have to offer, including the person who put this quote on my tea bag that I happened to get yesterday when I was preparing this talk. It's actually a quote from Emerson, and it says, "The creation of 1,000 forests is in one acorn." We don't know the blessing effect of our creative acts. Martha Graham again, "It is not your business to determine how good it is, nor how valuable, nor how it compares with other expressions. It is your business to keep it yours, clearly and directly, to keep the channel open. You do not even have to believe in yourself or your work. You have to keep yourself open and aware to the urges that motivate you." I hear an emphasis in that quote on creativity as an activity, not the results. You do not even have to believe in yourself or your work. You have to keep yourself open and aware to the urges that motivate you. The Bible is full of people who didn't think they were good enough, or other people didn't think they were good enough for the blessing work to which they were being called. Few examples. Noah was a drunk. Abraham was really old. Moses had a speech problem. David was a murderer. Elijah was suicidal. Isaiah preached naked. Job went bankrupt. John the Baptist ate bugs. Martha worried about everything. Lazarus was dead. You do not even have to believe in yourself or your work. You have to keep yourself open and aware to the urges that motivate you. These words from Martha Graham, and also whoever put that list together of those biblical heroes, are encouraging us to use our creative confidence. And this is what our authors say. And creative confidence is about believing in your ability to create change in the world around you. It is the conviction that you can achieve what you set out to do. Creative confidence is like a muscle. It can be strengthened and nurtured through effort and experience. And as you can imagine, the rest of the book has some ideas about how you can exercise that muscle. And I would like to make a couple of suggestions for us today, and possibly, if you're game, to take into your week. So first, I invite you to notice, on an ongoing way, to notice the many ways in your life that you are already letting the Divine One be creative through you. as you. And when you spot one, whatever stage it's in, if it's in the pre-planning stage, you're actively engaged in it, it's temporarily on pause, it's already completed. When you spot one, perhaps you can follow the pattern that is set in the creation story of the Bible in Genesis. In this story, as God goes through the 6 days of creating things, after each thing is created, there is this phrase, "And God saw that it was good." So, as we notice our creativity this week, I invite us to know that the creative spirit itself sees it as good. The second thing I want to invite you to do this week is to try something new. Try something new where you don't care what the results are. Simply put your focus on any ways you may be enjoying the activity of being creative itself. So to get us started, I invite you to turn within right now and consider, where am I expressing divine creativity in my life right now? And as you look at these things with Spirit's eyes, see that they are good. And now consider, is there some new way I am being called to express my creativity? So we now lift these thoughts up as together we remember that there is only one power, and that is the power of creative, giving love itself. It is that creative power that has taken form as this universe, worlds without end, infinitely. It is that ultimate giving being that continues to pour itself fully into its creation, eternally. It is that omnipresent love that is holding, guiding, and sustaining each one of us every moment of our eternal lives. This creative giving love has specifically chosen each of us to be the ones to express its very nature. We are here because it is delighting in being us. We are here, each one of us, to be creative, to be giving, to be love itself in the world. And so I speak a word of blessing for our creative endeavors. I know that as we notice and enjoy them, we invite the energy of that one that created the universe itself to rush in and to allow us to know that we are not creating alone, that we are an expression of the ultimate power. We are an expression of the ultimate joy. We are an expression of the ultimate intelligence. We are an expression of the ultimate love. And so for the many blessings that unfold from this state of awareness, I give thanks now as this word is released. And so it is.